Okay, somebody somebody person is saying now for it's good for yeast. Some people say that it's good for malaria. And sincerely, sometimes when you drink palm wine, when you take little of palm wine and you urinate, you see that. So,
Oh, for no.
so please, is palm wine also? Is it not natural? I think it's.
Is it under this category of alcoholic
exactly,
beverages?
And,
All right.
is it good?
Noted.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. So that's the second question. Do we have another one? Okay. Are those the only two questions we have? Okay. There is a hand here.
Happy Sabbath, church.
Happy day.
So I'm having trouble reconciling the statement you made on obedience being a result of grace. Then what do we say about, for example, the scripture that says God causes his rain to fall on both the just and the unjust? So God's grace extends to us. I believe it should be in spite, not because.
Okay.
That's all for
All
discussion.
right. Thank you. Thank you.
My own question is based on the nutrition. And I want to start by asking that what advice you can give, especially when it comes to the children, buying, junks, those, yes. Because if you are preaching against that, it's not that you don't want to buy, but especially the mothers, you think as if you are not, you don't know what you are, as if you don't want to spend or what, something like that. And your advice, so that they will hear by themselves, and if possible, they will take action.
All right. Thank you so much. I think those are the four that we have for now. Let me start with the last one. ICT, please bring up my slide to the point I stopped. Please bring up my slide to the point I stopped. Okay, good. Now, go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Now, stop there. When I was talking, I said we are going reading from that 1 Corinthians chapter 10 that says, whether therefore you eat or drink. I said we are going to start with drinking first. Alcohol is not the only drink I was going to talk about. So whenever we continue this is where I will continue from. Okay? We'll also talk about this. And when we will be talking about the aspect of food, we'll talk about those things like candies, those junks that you mentioned that concerns the children. But the bottom line of it is that there is a principle the Bible recommends or the Bible prescribes, and that is whatever it is that we do, we should do to the glory of God. If anything is going to destroy this temple, we should abstain from it. So we should ask the question, what good do those junks do? Do they offer goods? Are you getting what I'm saying? If they are filled with empty calories, what are we doing with them? Because all of these empty calories, they are the ones that, eventually end up in, conditions like obesity. And, incidentally, because we eat a lot of all of these junks, and we are now very inactive. We live sedentary lifestyles. That's why the subject matter is holistic. It is not just about diet. The new start that we are talking about, nutrition, exercise, is exercise. Many people, our lifestyle is very sedentary. Okay? We need to intentionally do exercises too. It is a requirement. As a matter of fact, exercise was a requirement as early as in the Garden of Eden. If you read Genesis chapter 2, God said, and God put Adam in the garden that he may dress it and tend to it. Do you know that gardening is actually an exercise that is recommended for therapeutic purposes? So exercise is a biblical recommendation because our lifestyle is very sedentary. So we need to exercise. The next one is water. Okay? And that will lead me to the question, one of the questions that was asked. Water. The next one is sunlight. The next one is temperance. What is the meaning of temperance? Temperance is complete abstinence from anything that is harmful and moderate use of what is good. Listen, it is and, not or. If it were or, then it means we could choose one of the two. Complete abstinence, and we may be fine. Or moderate use of what is good, and we'll be fine. But that's not the case. It is and. So we must abstain completely from what is harmful and use moderately the things that are good. That's temperance. The next one is air. Air. We need fresh air. Okay? Many of us, our lifestyles, okay, look at now, we are in church, AC. Everywhere, windows all closed. We leave church now, we enter into our car. We roll up AC. Okay? We drive home, get out of our cars, into our houses, AC. Okay? We wake up, go to work, our car's AC, we get to the office, AC. So we find out that our lives is so full of ACs. And you need to know the gases that are used, butane and propane. Okay? Too much of exposure to these things are not too good. So there are times when even if your car has AC, intentionally roll down your glass and let fresh air come in. On some Sundays, choose not to use AC at all in your home. Open your windows. Let fresh air come in. These are essentials that we need to. God provided all of these things. And the devil has given us a counterfeit. We'll talk about that when the time comes, if we have the opportunity. The devil has given a counterfeit to fresh air. And that's smoking. Oh, there are lots of scientific researches that I will show to you about what results from there. So that's air. The next one is rest. Rest. We need to see, rest is not a luxury. It's a necessity. God intentionally made it that we should rest. As a matter of fact, you will notice that the way God did it is that during the night time, darkness has some healing process it does in the body. It is in the dark times when everywhere is dark that some hormones in the body, the melatonin, is secreted in the body. It's only during dark time. That's why they recommend that we sleep in dark places without light. Okay? So, and above all, the rest that we take at night, God also provided the Sabbath. A whole day of rest to commune with God. All of these are biblical principles. And the last one is trust in God. We'll talk more about all of this. So, I hope that answers your question, sir. We'll look at more, whatever it is we do to the glory of God. Now, let me go to Bra Olumide's question. Palm wine. You know, if you understand the process of fermentation, you will know that it is not possible to get non-alcoholic palm wine. The only person that is likely to drink non-alcoholic palm wine is the palm wine tapper that tapped it from the tree. He's the only one that is likely to get non-alcoholic palm wine. Let me explain to you the process of fermentation. I know this because my whole long essay while I was in school was on the topic of alcohol. I wrote a whole research paper on alcohol. And I did. In fact, one of my professors, if I mention his name, you will know him. It was in a conversation in one discourse one time, and a question on alcohol came up. And he said in that place, he said, I'm going to recommend that you reach out to this person and let him give you his research paper. It has all the answers that you may have on alcohol. And it was my paper I was referring to. It was my supervisor, Professor Akpa. So I worked on alcohol. I went from public health library to medical school library to history library, because I looked at subject matters like prohibitionism, abstentionism. I looked at all of these subject matter. Then I came to religious studies library, went to Lazoti library. I didn't go home for the summer. I did a lot of work. So I understand a little bit about the process of fermentation. Natural fermentation produces alcohol percentage of about 6%. When the yeast, you see, when the palm wine is tapped, okay, there's presence of yeast there. And when it begins to react with air, with natural environment, fermentation process begins. That's when you begin to see those little bubbles. Those little bubbles. Fermentation process is a process that you cannot alter. You can only slow it down. Because the conditions in the atmosphere meet the criteria for fermentation. As long as there is yeast and there is sugar present, fermentation process. That's why even something as innocent as watermelon or orange, after some time, can become alcoholic. It is because of the natural process of fermentation. Once there is sugar, once there is yeast, it begins. So that's why I said the most likely person that will take palm wine without alcohol is the palm wine tapper. Because immediately he brings it down, pours it into his gouge or whatever they call it. The process of fermentation has started. And naturally, you can have up to 6% of alcohol in that palm wine. Now, they aid that fermentation process by doing what is called fortifying. A process called fortifying. They add dates, or they add sugar, or they add, some even add gins to aid the process so that the percentage can rise above 6%. Because as long as there is sugar and there is yeast, the process continues. Are you getting what I'm saying now? So, is palm wine alcoholic? Yes. Now, does it have health benefits? Let me give you this illustration. Take for example, we are not here. Let's just say it was only the deacons that were in church. And then there was fire, maybe God forbid, one of the wires just sparked and fire and smoke everywhere. And let's say that we have curtains on all our walls. And then the deacon, maybe Sister Shade and Sister Lola Day and Bro Lumide came in and they saw everywhere filled with smoke, thick smoke. And they just look for face mask and they cover themselves and they look for the source of the smoke. They put it out, and the next thing they want to do is they want to open the doors, right? They open the windows so that everything will clear. Is that not so? Then let's say after 1 hour, service is to start. We're all coming and we are all seated. And everywhere is clear like this. And they come to the front and say, well, we have testimonies. God was so good to us today. In fact, God helped us prevent a fire outbreak. If you had come into this church 1 hour ago, you won't believe what you will see. Everywhere densely filled with smoke. Will you believe them? You will say no because you didn't see it. Let's even say you won't believe them because you didn't see it. But if someone says that, yes, I believe them, do you know that you can find evidence in this place to show that what they are saying is true? Just go to the curtains and just touch it. What will you find? SOOT. Soot. Everywhere has cleared, right? There's no trace of smoke in the air. But you will find that there are residues. That's what happens when you take alcohol. Yes, there may be some good things. Yeah, you hear that it has some antioxidants. Okay? That helps with this, that helps with that. But the terrible thing it does outweighs the good. Don't forget, when God created everything he created, the Bible said it was what? It was good for the purpose that it was created for. So alcohol is not altogether bad, but it has what it is good for. So you will find good in alcohol, but it is a situation of drinking it, getting those little good things, but what about the soot it has left there? Yes, you drink it, it clears the urine, or it takes care of malaria, or whatever. What about the liver, the damage it has done to your liver? Now, let me mention something very quickly. It's part of the presentation I have here. See, there is a research that a doctor by the name Melvin Nicely, Dr. Melvin Nicely agglutination research. What it is, he grouped a group of university students in South Carolina. Okay, he grouped them together into categories A, B, and C. Okay, and he gave category A 3 cups, 3 bottles of alcohol. Category B 7. Category C 12. He just told them, each person, to go into the room where those bottles are. He didn't know which student went to where. He wanted to use the experiment to determine the level of agglutination that alcohol causes. What is agglutination? The clogging of the nerves of the eyes, the blood vessels in the eyes, right? So they drank that day, and the following day he invited all of them. And he observed, he looked through their eyes through the help of an electron microscope, very powerful one. And he saw that every single one of them, not minding either it was 12 bottles or 7 bottles or 3 bottles, every one of them showed signs of agglutination. Their blood vessels started thickening. The blood vessels in their eyes started thickening and clotting. So it doesn't matter how little, it doesn't matter how much. Alcohol is an antibody to a large extent. Okay? It has things it deposits in the body, effects it leaves. Like I said, it has antioxidants. Okay? But the bad outweighs the good. So if it's malaria you want to treat, if you can't afford Amatem soft gel, go and drink Agbo. There are other alternatives that are healthy. You know, you want to take Agbo, right? You hear some people say they must mix it with alcohol, Abi, for health reasons. Who says that if you mix it with water, it won't work? I sometimes take Agbo. I do. But whenever I want to purchase it, I will tell them, Olomi. But it will be devoid of alcohol. It will work. Okay, now this is where I'm going. I want to crown it with this instance. You see, there is something, a natural defense mechanism that God has put in the brain. It is called BBB, blood-brain barrier. Like I said, I did a whole lot of work on alcohol. So I came across a lot of things. Blood-brain barrier. This blood-brain barrier is the defense system, natural defense system that God put in our brain. You see, our brain is so delicate. Do you know that every part of the human body heals, and the cells there, they replicate themselves? That's what happens when healing takes place. Blood clots there, and the cells there, they rejuvenate. The only part of the body that whenever cells die there, they don't rejuvenate is the brain. There are billions of neuron cells in the brain. But if anything happens to one of them, it begins to depreciate, begins to reduce. It does not reproduce. That's why we have diseases like dementia. Diseases like, what's that one that you forget things? Amnesia, thank you. It is because it's like memory card. Those cells are like memory cards. So when that part where that information is stored, something happens to it, it does not heal. So if something happens to it, it's gone. Are you getting what I'm saying? So now, this is the bottom line. This blood-brain barrier is like this door. The deacons are there. If anybody is misbehaving and is coming with someone is coming that way, and the deacons are at the door, would they allow that person in? No. The door is like a safety defense system. All right, let's assume let's assume that they will do their job and keep the door safe. Now, this is where I'm going. They will only open the door for people that they perceive that, okay, they are fine. They have come to worship, right? That's what the blood-brain barrier does. The blood-brain barrier, listen to this. Listen to this. It says, the blood-brain barrier is a single layered lattice of cells joined together by tight junctions that keep most substances out and allow few substances into the brain. Toxic substances typically kept out include heavy metals, pesticides. You know, we go out, we breathe in a lot of things. The reason why those things don't go straight to the brain is because of the blood-brain barrier. It says heavy metals, pesticides, PCBs, as well as damaging proteins. While those are the substances it keeps out. While substances allowed in are oxygen, hormones, and nutrients. Now, if anything happens to that blood-brain barrier, it leads to a medical condition called leaky brain. Leaky. that the defense system of the brain is beginning to degenerate. And when it begins to degenerate, harmful substances are no longer stopped from going to the brain. Now, listen to this final note. There are some things that this blood-brain barrier keeps out. But alcohol is one of the very, very few things that bypasses the blood-brain barrier. It bypasses it. It does not need the permission of the blood-brain barrier to open the gate before it has access to the brain. That's why it can sometimes act as a stimulant, and it can sometimes act as a hallucinogen. All of those effects that you see, is the brain that is sending the signal. So the blood-brain barrier cannot keep alcohol out. And alcohol is damaging it gradually. Every little cup by little cup. Every little drink by little drink. Alcohol is damaging it. So it's better we stay away from it altogether. Now, what category of wine? Is it red wine? Is it white wine? Okay. Okay. Please, we need the mic to be on.
5 seconds.
Okay.
No
Use a little wine for your stomach's sake.
Exactly.
And for your own full infirmities.
No longer drink only water, but use a little wine for your stomach's sake and your frequent infirmity.
That actually was my project topic. Let me tell you what my project topic was. Exegetical analysis of 1 Timothy 5:23. Use a little wine for your stomach's sake. That was the topic. Now, white wine, red wine, sparkling wine, and do you know that, thank you, do you know that all of these that you are talking about, there are even types of wine. Do you know that there are kinds of alcohol? Wine is a kind of alcohol. So, under wine, you now have types of wine, the ones we have listed. Some other kinds of alcohol, apart from wine, is beer, spirits, whiskeys, right? All of those creams. They are kind, those gins are under spirits. Call them liquor. Those ones, you get them by the process called distillation. Those high percentages of alcohol, distillation. But in wine, it's fermentation. Distillation gives high percentage of alcohol. Fermentation gives the level that you have in wine and all of that. And in red wine, they talk about all of these antioxidants because the grape fruit that is used, it has all of these antioxidants that I mentioned and all of that. Now, what was going on in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 23? Because what you need to understand, first of all, is that whatever type of wine it is, as long as there is CH3OOH, if I'm not mistaken, that's the chemical substance of ethanol. As long as CH3OOH is inside, COOH is inside, call it whatever, alcohol is there. So whether it is white, whether it is black, whether it is dark, whether it is glowing or sparkling, as long as ethanol, CH3COOH is there, it falls under this category. Now, what was going on in 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 23? You need to understand the water system of the ancient Near East. One of the things that determines where people settle down when they migrate is water supply. Unlike today, we are lucky to have very good water systems. In the ancient times, that was not the case. So when people that's why you hear in the Bible, in the Old Testament, this one dug well, Abraham dug well. Whenever they get to a place, they dig well. Because it is water system, it is availability of water that determines where people settle. And because these wells are stagnant, before you know it, it's contaminated. And they have to move and find somewhere else to dig well. So the water ancient Near East was a big, epileptic, in the sense that now it is healthy, it is no longer fit for consumption. That was the time that, all these ancient people lived in. Now, in Israel, they had a system that they used for for bringing water into the city. They call it aqueducts. Okay? It's like they create a channel, what we call irrigation today. So those channels, they draw it from river sources into the city. And because the conditions are not as advanced as it is today, even though those measures were technological innovations of those times, that aqueduct. But you find out that those channels are carved into surfaces that have limestone and all of that. So as water channels or finds its way through those places, by the time it gets to its destination, you find out that sometimes it's already not healthy. If you remember what happened in Daniel chapter 5 when Babylon fell, what happened is a typical example of the technical innovation of that time when it comes to water supply. What they did was that they channeled water from River Euphrates, okay, into Babylon. So that water channel is an example of aqueduct. What did Cyrus do? Cyrus went a little bit farther and he created another channel for water to flow. So instead of the water flowing into Babylon, and because the water is undisturbed, the level is high. So they created a channel under the wall through which the fence through which water goes into the city. So the water level is high. You cannot swim or pass through into the city. So what Cyrus did was that he created another channel for the water to go. So when that channel was created, because now water has two ways, it will find the level. The level here will drop. So because the level of the water going into Babylon dropped, that was how about 3-4 soldiers were able to pass through that channel and they went to open the gate. That was what was going on there. So the point is that the water system then was not altogether healthy. So what they do is that they mix their water with a disinfectant. We used to use alum, right? We used to use alum. And then we graduated from alum to water guard. Thank you. Water guard. Okay? The only disinfectant they had that time was wine. You see, there is something called vintage. Vintage period is usually the period when wine was produced. Okay? So vintage period was when they take grapes to the press, they get the residue, get the filtrate, and keep it in guards. What do they call those? Amphorae is like a vessel where they used to collect whatever. So during vintage period, wine is always available. So it is that wine that they used to disinfect the water because it was the most potent disinfectant that was available at that time. Let me shock you, and I will conclude with this. How many of us have heard of codeine? Yeah, I know, right? What's the nickname of codeine? The purple thing, right? The purple thing. Do you know that codeine is in cough syrup? Yes, if you don't know, please know now. Codeine is in a lot of cough syrups. Now, let me tell you what some guys were doing back when we were in school. That was how I got to know. You just see guys enter pharmacy, and they will buy 3 bottles of cough syrup. And you wonder, so they just buy the 3 cups, go. Next one, go. What's going on here? So when I was asking questions, like this, wait till you know. You don't sabi anything, huh? Boys, they drink codeine. And I was like, wow. Now, codeine in cough syrup is in trace amount because it has some effects on the brain. If you go and read up on it, you will see that the codeine actually affects the part of the brain that controls coughing. And it helps, to reduce it. Now, if you drink cough syrup, can someone accuse you of drinking codeine? No. Because the codeine there is in trace amount. Do you know that there was even some time ago that there was cocaine in paracetamol? I think that argument has been voided now. But if someone uses paracetamol, can you accuse the person of taking cocaine? No. Because the motive is that it has what it does in what? Trace amount. So it is controlled. So that's what was going on then when Timothy was being recommended by Paul to use a little wine. And please take note of a little wine. It is a little. Monos oinos. Mikros oinos. Little. As against mega oinos. A lot. So that's to tell you that it is to be used because there are some people they call teetotalers. Their sins, you hear them, their sins. These are people, they practice ascetic lifestyle. They stay away from this, stay away from this, stay away from this, stay away from this. Like they live like monks. Timothy was tending towards that because don't forget, Timothy was pastoring the Ephesian church, the church in Ephesus. And the ascetics were very much there. And Timothy was not a Jew. He was a proselyte, a converted Jew. Okay? So he tilted towards some of those ascetic lifestyles. So Paul was recommending to him, don't just water not disinfected. That's a way, another way of putting that verse. 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 23. Paul was telling Timothy to not drink his water without what? Disinfecting it. Because that was what the wine was to do. So he said, use a little wine. No longer drink just water. Now, let me tell you something. If you read that verse, Sister Lolade, if you read that verse in the original Greek, if you read it in the original Greek, the way it reads is, no longer drink just water. That's the way it reads in the original. Because in my project, I had to translate from the original Greek. So it is not just don't drink water. It is no longer drink just water, but use a little wine for your stomach's sake and your often infirmities. So because it was, that ascetic lifestyle, it was giving him dysentery, diarrhea, and you can't be a pastor and be every now and then. You are supposed to be praying for your members not to fall sick. If members are not the one their pastor. Lord, please help us heal our pastor. Another 2 or 3 weeks, pastor is sick again. Lord, help us heal our pastor. So Paul had to comment to him, don't just drink only water. Disinfect it with wine. I admit it here. It is alcoholic wine that is recommended in that place. But it is not for the sake of pleasure drinking. It is to serve as a disinfectant for the water that he was drinking the way it was. Sorry? Can you now use it to disinfect water? Thank you. There are more potent and better disinfecting agents. That is the principle. Thank you. I like that question. Hold on. All right, cost effectiveness. You see, in those Bible texts, it is principle that we should draw out from there. Are you listening to me? It is principle where I submitted. I now, from tracing water system from the ancient times, I traced it down to our own era. Okay? And I came to the conclusion that we have better water system in our days. We have borehole. A lot of us provide our waters ourselves through borehole system. It's not even government that is providing water for us. So we have good water. We have healthy water. So if worst case scenario, you need to disinfect your water, there are more potent, more controlled, and better disinfecting measures. Use those. Many times they are even cheaper than the wine you are thinking. Now, this is what they say, that the more you dilute the wine, in fact, at about a ratio of 1 to maybe 1,000 or so, that the antioxidants, replicate, they multiply. But the conclusion is this, and this was the way I concluded in my project. I said, it is principles that we should from here. The principle is that you need to be able to do it. So, you find something that is causing ailment for you, treat it with the best available method. Principle. The method that was wine, and that's what they used to disinfect the waters then. Okay? So the equivalence of that today, we have them all over. You have water guards, you have what's it called? Alum. And even if you don't need those things, go and buy water from Tonayo or from Babcock. Buy Babcock water. You don't need to disinfect those ones. You get. So you don't need wine anymore for your stomach's sake and your often infirmities. Thank you so much. God bless you.
Happy Sabbath, everyone. Happy Sabbath, everyone.